large tree line that used to go down there when the photos were taken back in 1878 or so. And the last connection with that whole family, Bob Twiss, was a descendant of George Sprague.
Yeah.
I can't resist it. Once upon a time, if you had a problem and the roads were bad and you ran off the road or hit something, you could ask for redress of the town selectmen and get some money back for what the road did to your truck or wagon or whatever. This guy was not from Craftsbury, but I'll shorten it up. There's a bill for repairing furniture was spoke to you about. It was sustained in consequence of coming in contact with a maple tree on the right-hand side of the road going up the hill from the river to Crafts Mill. So we're talking about, you know, the road down here, the Smith place, or who was after the Smith, who's there now? Yeah. But it's the road down to the Mill Village. And if you're not yet so on, please hand this over to your accessor and acquaint him with the fact that you have been duly notified and I claim the above mentioned indemnity. $2.25. George Sprague, a selectman at the time, of which he was for quite a few years, this is his response. The selectmen are unanimous in this opinion that any man has a right to run his load, or his head even, against a tree in the road, provided he does not damage the tree. And so on and so forth. This guy didn't get his $2.25.
What year was that?
1866.
66, yeah, that's 1866. And George had a lot of other strong opinions about things, but they're right on, most of them. How are we doing with the, we're doing okay? One of the things, this is sort of serious, two items I pulled out over here, miscellaneous. One of them is a ballot box for 1903, I think. Shall a license be granted for sale of intoxicating liquors in this town? 71 voted yes, and 110 voted no. 116 voted no. So we were a dry town, and I don't know how many years we were, but we were typical in that era of being teetotalers.
But people made their own, no.
So, yeah, there is an interesting progression from going backwards. It wasn't always the same. We found these were given to us. This is the Town Liquor Agent's Record Book. And if you want to find out how they circumvented boozing it up, you just look through these. It's got the name of the person who's purchasing the liquor, the date, of course, and what it costs, and of course what you're buying, whether you're buying whiskey, rye, gin, so on and so forth. And then the remarks, simply one word usually, why are you buying this? Medicinal, 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 medicinal. There's every one of these on this page, medicinal purposes only. So we moved around a little bit with it. And there's, well, we got a liquor license from 1834 in which this man is granted a liquor license, and yet he's told, do not sell liquor to these people. And then the names are...
Specific people?
Specific people, yeah. And some of the names are sort of common, and you have heard that name before. Chamberlain, one of the guys who was told to stay out of the liquor, out of the tavern, his family was, we have the papers here for some reason, but were they were warned out of Craftsbury and Albany. In other words, indigent people who didn't have a way to support themselves were a burden on the towns, and so they tried to find a way to keep these people from legally living in this town, and so they were warned out. And one of these drinkers was a Chamberlain, in fact the same one, and he was warned out. There's a Chamberlain Hill over down the Creek Road and near Albany, and there's a cemetery up there, the Chamberlain Cemetery. And that Chamberlain family stayed up there. We had Chamberlains here of our own, of great renown. But everything sort of, links up at some point. Why did you laugh? Why did you laugh at that?
It looks like somebody got cut out.
Does anyone remember why there's a cutout on this photograph of a Craftsbury Academy?
Oh, the boy that got into trouble for putting the roosters up on the...
The chicken incident. I mentioned Mary Jean Simpson. She had a younger brother, and his name was James. He and another boy, who's that?
I think it was Uriah.
Okay. They got a little wild and crazy, and they climbed up into the church, the steeple of the academy, and they loosed some fowl in there, roosters and whatnot, and scurried down and chuckled a bit. But they got caught. Somebody squealed on them or whatever. And James was so ticked off that his copy of his school group, Craftsbury Academy, in 1906, perhaps. I can see Mary Jean Simpson here, but he took a knife and he carved his face right out of there. Just in ink. He ended up going to People's Academy and graduating in 1809.
Wow.
But there's somebody who had a temper.
You had to do some investigating, right? You had to go find the other copy to find out who that was.
Yeah, we found another copy, and the sad part is, and this is sort of a lesson learned, we had a letter referring to that and making it much clearer as to who else was involved and what and how they got caught. But it was lent to somebody of this Simpson family, and it was never returned to us. And I tried like heck to try and locate it, but that letter and a number of other very interesting ones from the Simpson family are gone forever because we didn't keep track of things, and that's my fault. We do have a sign-out book in here, and anytime you want to look at something, you can certainly sign it out officially. We've got a place to photocopy stuff, and I hope we don't have any problems like that ever again, at least while I'm alive. So, and just in case, yeah, this is getting a little dark. I do this, here's something that we're trying to get rid of until we noticed a photograph. This is from the Illustrated London Times, July 4th, 1970. And the article is How British is America? And they got a few photographs here, and the middle one says, you could say it's a deliberate trick, that pictures can always be made to prove a point. Well, maybe, but the English look lingers evocatively in these views of a village green in Vermont. And where do you think the village green is?
Give it to Sue.
Right here. There's the photograph that they chose. And then when I was working on our postcard photo collection, we have lots and lots of photos in albums. The most important thing is the back of a used postcard. And here's an example, because I looked on the back, and this is dated October 13th, 1953, and someone will never know who they are. There's a photograph of the common, the church, the wee Hoose kind of buried in trees at this point. But what these visitors said to Mr. and Mrs. Arnold Burr in Rockville, Maryland, "We're spending a week here in the most delightful inn and the loveliest village I have ever seen. It is straight out of the 19th century and has to be seen to be believed." Franklin and so that's what other people think of our community, and I think they're quite right. So, oh, I got halfway through. This ballot box obviously is part of Craftsbury's history. Other things that we've got, too many of them probably, have no provenance. There's no obvious connection with Craftsbury at all, and yet we have it on display. And we were told, at a workshop, weren't we? What do you do with stuff like this?
You get rid of it.
You got to get rid of it. I mean, there are a lot of people in the business who seriously make an effort not to collect clutter and things that perhaps would be better somewhere else. And it's a cute little 6-shooter. What its fate will be, I don't know, but that's up to the, you know, the future members of the Historical Society and how the officers think about things like that. But it did make us wonder, and that's why we brought some stuff out a couple weeks ago and sold what people were interested in, and we didn't sell it all by any means. But we're trying to, you know, pare things down to what's really important to us here, and maybe find a new home for this. Maybe there's a gun nut that would appreciate it. Maybe we should keep it. That's for us to decide. But
Where
that's
did we
an
get it? How did
example.
we get it?
Well, we don't even have any obvious provenance here, and maybe, and here we get into something else, there is a cranky old computer over here, and we're trying to figure out what to do with a computer that may or may not be worth the weight in trash. But in 1904, a woman from Sterling College
2004.
came over, 2004, yeah. Not that old. Came over here, and we made a valiant effort to start accessioning the items that we have in a proper manner, using you know, a store-bought little program. And then we discovered, oh, it's just a teaser. You only can write, you can get 20 or maybe 200 artifacts. And then they say, ante up, you gotta buy the program. You know. And we didn't. And so we stopped. And so I'm desperately trying to collect anything that explains where something came from and what it is. I haven't run across an answer for what this origin is, but maybe we will.
Don't wave that around,
Maybe it's on
Dave.
that computer from 2004.
Maybe that was
Well,
used
yeah.
to commit one of the murders that was committed here.
One of the murders? Oh, that's another story. Yeah. Murder. Yeah, oh, that one. Yeah, there's the murder part. Anyway,
This is a murder?
that's the list of the ministers turned out.
Oh,
Nobody in Craftsbury was turned out. I checked that out. And this covers part of the whole New England area, so it's not that bad.
I have a question. I was
Yeah.
wondering if there's actually any written family history or genealogy done on the, I was thinking about the computer. I mean, do you have anything that you know, goes back through these founding families or original residents?
We are, let me just check. All right, we're gonna go into the room where I can answer your question, but this photograph here is typical of things that we have that we're not sure about where it is, who they are, or anything. And the serendipity of being in a museum like this, and people from far away or local people come in, and they look over and say, oh, that's Grandpa Hale. And this is a building that's no longer here, up on my Menard's dairy farm, up on the hill, Denton Hill there. And she told me, she and her aunt were here, and she just happened to walk in, and she said, this is because Grandpa Hale got a serious infection on his thumb, and his whole system was compromised, and he couldn't do any work. He couldn't handle tools or the reins of his livestock. So these are all the neighbors who got together in the spring, and they did the spring things that farmers need to do on time. And it's quite a picture of, you know, men and livestock. And there's another photo even closer, and you know, I know which one is Grandpa Hale, but there's still a Hale presence of some distant relative living over towards Morrisville and up Route 100. So she helped there, and yeah. Oh, and we're still getting advice about whether our signage is good or bad. Somebody who knew tools and machinery well saw this a year ago when he came in to visit, and I know him from connection with Polytechnic. And he right away caught that these aren't masonry tools, they're stone cutters tools, and there's a big difference there. And so we've got Allie Hastings working on putting a new sign down here that's more accurate, as we should be. Okay, let's go zip right into the kitchen area.
I want, you know, they have the record, is that's the only thing they have?
Right, yeah.
These are historical trailers.
They're really very nice.
So Don, did you do any bigger prints or?
Something.
I did not do these.
Because they're pretty nice prints. really.
Yeah, they're pretty plain. Well, maybe I should say I did do them.
Yeah, I mean, they're big, what, 11
Yeah,
or 14. so
Right,
it's-
yeah.
I think I'm gonna go. I'll check in.
Wonder when that was.
There's gonna be a walk on part of the Bailey Hazen Road.
In
from-
Craftsbury?
No,
Oh.
no, it's gonna be over in Greensboro area, of Hardwick. You asked a question about genealogy and all?
Yes.
When
Right
somebody comes here,
Right in here.
and a lot of them do, you know, I probably 6 or 8 a year in some way or another, whether it be a phone call or not. I show them this, and what happens is somebody comes, or I find some information about a family, and it goes into this, and it's, you know, it's crude, and it's, some of it's good and some of it's just junk, but it gets them started, and they find goodies. And it's fun to watch them say, hey, this, yeah, I know, this is all. Or they help us straighten things out that weren't right. We have reference books that are good for people who are tracing their genealogy also. And so it's, we can help them, and we do, and it's a lot of fun. And ironic coincidences even involved my wife's family one day when I met somebody. So there's that. And this is sort of like our kitchen and our office, and we do have files. We've got office files. We got photographs in here that I don't know what to do with. And then this one I hate the most, miscellaneous for sorting, and it fills up, and then I dig away at it. But it's quite a chore. But you know, we've got, these are all the photo albums, and we get more and more every year. regular files, you just think of it, you know, something like the fire department, and there's a folder on the fire department, or there's a folder on the 1927 flood. Again, it's just coincidence or whim of whether we put a folder down there for that. And there are some things of a sensitive nature that I'm not going to talk about because some of the people are still around, and we don't have, nothing really serious happened, but there's a misunderstanding, as happens with people and organizations, and somewhere in here is a good example of that. So if you want to snoop around, assuming you're going to be a docent for us, or help us in some way or another,
It's the benefit you
and I'm
get
not
to-
here, you could sneak over there and see what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say anything more about that. Body. Charles, look behind you, right here. Can you read?
Look at that cat out there.
Well, first of all, I found this little tiny piece of paper on the floor when I was, sorting things out for sale. And I have no idea where it came from. I wish I did, but it fell on the floor and it was in one of the books or magazines that I was sorting, like this kind of stuff.
And it says she's been on more laps than a napkin.
So there's Body for you. I mean, where did it come from? I no idea. But it was on the floor.
You can get rid of. You can put it with the gun and get rid of both of them.
No, I like that one. That's our token bodiness, I guess. But that's the napkin puzzle. Oh well. Okay. Well. So you want to take a quick walk downstairs, and there's not too much. Yeah, we got a few things.
Yeah, you have this in the
Come on down.
library, don't you?
You're here for infra dollar.
Any others?